It's 11:42 p.m. here on 104.6 FM, the only voice I think still cutting through the storm tonight. My name is Mark Ellison, and I'm talking to you from what's left of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The air outside is thick, hotter than any night I remember in August, sticky in a way that feels more like fever than weather, and the wind is carrying that low howl that never stops anymore. It's not the kind of wind that rattles a window and passes. It's the kind that drills into your ears and keeps you awake, the kind that makes you feel like the sky itself is breaking apart over your head. They named this monster Hurricane Persephone, and even before she made landfall, the meteorologists were calling it something different, Category 7. That's not even supposed to exist. But that's what happens when the oceans stay boiling at 90 degrees for months on end. You get storms that rewrite the books. Stores open. No rules. What's the first thing you grab before the shelves are empty? And why? Let me know in the comments below. I'm alive tonight because this little station was built with a backup generator and a fuel tank buried under the old foundation back when people still thought about war and terror attacks. I guess that's ironic, that the preparations for one disaster ended up saving us from another one no one thought could happen. We lost the grid 3 nights ago when the surge took out every transformer across the southern half of the state. Phones went dead not long after. The satellites are down. Or maybe they're still up there, but the lines that connected us to them are gone, snapped in the air like fishing wire. I don't know. I just know that when I scroll the dial, I don't hear the chatter of other stations anymore. Just static, except for what I'm sending out. I've been looking out the studio window for hours now. What I see doesn't look like the city I grew up in. The streets are canals, brown rivers carrying pieces of roofs, cars, and things I don't want to think about. The streetlights are bent like drinking straws, and the water climbs higher every hour. Out by the horizon, toward the river, you can see fires burning, bright orange but smeared by the sheets of rain so it looks like the whole world is melting together. And the strangest part of all is how dark the sky is. No moon, no stars, just blackness split open by flashes of lightning that never seem to stop. People keep asking me, when I still had calls coming in before the towers failed, how this started. I don't think there's one moment you can point at. The sea had been climbing for decades, the storms getting worse every year. We were told that levees were stronger, that floodgates could hold, that satellites would track everything in time. But none of it mattered once Persephone grew past the numbers we had names for. I remember the moment it turned, the moment it became something else. I was standing outside the station 2 weeks ago when the first warnings came in. The sky was green at sunset, that sick kind of green you see before tornadoes, and my neighbor down the block, old guy named Henry, looked at me and said, "That's not weather, that's a curse." At the time, I laughed. Now I think maybe he was right in some way. The collapse didn't hit all at once. First, the coastal towns went silent. Grand Isle, Port Fourchon, Venice, all of them cut off in a single night. Rescue crews tried to get in by boat, but the waves were taller than houses, and the currents dragged whole fleets of Coast Guard cutters into the Gulf. Then came the power outages, one grid after another, tumbling like dominoes. Hospitals switched to backup, but fuel is gold now, and gold runs out. I got a call from a nurse in New Orleans. Her name was Alana, who said they were moving babies from incubators into cardboard boxes lined with hot water bottles to keep them alive. She cried through most of that call. I still hear her voice in my head. They're saying now, or they were before the networks went down, that the hurricane itself isn't the only problem. Persephone stalled over the Gulf for days, feeding on heat that never cooled. Some scientists were whispering about it not being natural, about how storms used to break apart when they grew this big, but this one just sat there, spinning wider and wider until it covered states instead of coastlines. I got one message, scratched out on paper and slipped under the door by a man who wouldn't even give me his name, saying he used to work at NOAA. He said the upper atmosphere has changed, that the old patterns don't apply anymore. He wrote, "This isn't just weather, this is system failure." I didn't know what he meant until I watched the Mississippi rise faster than I thought possible, swallowing block after block. Now the government's gone quiet. The last official broadcast I heard was a FEMA notice on a repeating loop telling people to shelter in place and wait for federal assistance. That was 5 days ago. Since then, nothing. No president, no governors. Just silence where leadership used to be. Out in the neighborhoods, people have already started turning on each other. I saw it myself yesterday when I walked down Government Street looking for clean water. A man was standing on the roof of a pickup truck, holding a shotgun, guarding a stack of bottled water like it was treasure. Maybe it is now. He wasn't letting anyone come close. Not even the kids begging at the edge of the crowd. That's what this storm has done. Turned neighbors into enemies in a matter of days. But it hasn't all been despair. Earlier today, I saw a woman standing in waist-deep water, passing out cans of beans to anyone who came near her porch. She said she'd stocked up years ago, expecting something like this. And now she was sharing it with anyone hungry enough to knock. People lined up in silence, taking one can each, not asking for more. And for a moment I thought, maybe we're not completely lost yet. I don't know who's listening to me tonight. Maybe nobody. Maybe someone with an old radio still working, huddled in a dark room with their family, wondering how much longer this storm will hold. Maybe someone 100 miles away, where the rain hasn't reached yet, trying to make sense of why the lights went out and the internet died. If you're hearing this, just know you're not alone. I'm here, and I'll keep talking as long as this generator has fuel. Right now, the water is climbing the steps of this building. I can hear it slapping against the bricks every time the wind pushes a new surge down the street. The storm is moving inland now, but it's not weakening the way they always told us storms do once they hit land. Persephone is feeding on the heat in the soil, on the broken swamps, on everything we left vulnerable. They said a hurricane couldn't survive without the sea. They were wrong. If you're within the flood zones, get to high ground. Don't wait. Don't expect the government to come. Find shelter in solid buildings, move supplies upstairs, and don't waste your water. If you've got a way to store rain, do it now. But boil it if you can, because the runoff is poison from all the factories and dead animals washing into the streets. Trust what you see, not what you remember. Baton Rouge isn't Baton Rouge anymore. New Orleans isn't New Orleans. These cities are islands now, and even islands can drown. It's after midnight now, and the storm hasn't let up for even a minute. I keep thinking maybe there'll be a break in the rain, some moment of silence where I can breathe without hearing the roof groan. But it doesn't come. Persephone doesn't rest. I wonder sometimes if storms like this are alive in a way we don't understand, not just wind and water, but something with a mind of its own. I can hear the walls of this station tremble every time another gust slams against it, like a giant's fist punching through the night. The air is so heavy inside that every breath feels wet, like I'm drowning even when I'm not in the floodwater. The street outside is unrecognizable now. I keep looking through the glass, even though there's nothing to see but black water moving fast in the glow of the lightning. It's carrying things with it. Planks of wood, shattered siding, chairs, and sometimes cars. They float like toys, bobbing until they hit something and sink. Earlier, I thought I saw a whole house, drifting down the street sideways, windows glowing faintly from candles inside. I don't know if it was real, or if my mind just wanted to see something human out there. I found a shortwave signal an hour ago, cutting faintly through the static. It was weak, barely audible, but it sounded like someone from Houston. The voice kept repeating coordinates, telling survivors to head to the Astrodome. I don't know if it's real. Could be an old recording looping, could be bait, could just be someone clinging to the idea that stadiums can still be safe zones, like they were decades ago. But if anyone's closer to Texas than I am, it might be worth checking. Don't take it as gospel, though. Verify before you risk everything. That's the best advice I can give now. I keep thinking about how quickly the world fell apart. Just a week ago, we still had arguments about politics, about prices at the store, about who was to blame for the rising sea. Now none of that matters. No one is shouting about left or right or red or blue. It's all washed away. The only lines that matter now are the ones drawn in water, the ones that show who has a way to survive and who doesn't. I saw people today climbing on top of billboards, screaming at helicopters that never came. I saw kids tied to trees by their parents so they wouldn't get swept away by the current. When I walked back to the station, I passed a church with its doors ripped open, pews floating out into the street, and a handful of people sitting on the roof, singing through the rain. Their voices were faint, but steady. I don't know if I should call that hope or desperation. Maybe it's the same thing. They said Category 5 was the worst it could get, the top of the scale, the nightmare scenario. But now we're talking Category 7, winds over 200 miles an hour at their peak, pressure dropping lower than anything on record. I keep thinking about how the scientists warned us back in the 2050s, how they said if the oceans kept heating the way they were, we'd make monsters. People laughed then, said technology would keep us safe. But here we are, 80 years into this century, and our technology is rusting in the water while the monsters walk free. I've been rationing food since the power went out. The vending machine in the lobby still has a few things, and I managed to pry it open with a crowbar. Mostly chips and candy bars, but it's better than nothing. I know I need to pace myself because I don't know when or if resupply will come. If you're listening, do the same. Don't eat because you're bored or scared. Eat because you need strength. Every calorie counts now. And if you can, stay with people you trust. Loneliness eats at you almost as fast as hunger. Earlier, before the water reached the building, I went out with a flashlight to see what I could salvage. I found a woman clinging to the top of a stop sign, shaking so badly I thought she was going to let go. She told me her name was Celeste, that she'd been stuck there since the sun went down. I pulled her in, got her into the station, gave her half a bottle of water. She's asleep now in the corner with a blanket wrapped around her. I don't know how long she'll stay, but for tonight, she's alive. That's all that matters. You know what the strangest part is? The animals knew first. Birds disappeared from the sky 2 days before the storm hit. Dogs went wild in the streets, barking at nothing, pulling their chains until they snapped. Even the insects vanished. I noticed it when I walked outside. No buzzing, no chirping, nothing but silence. It was like the whole natural world had already decided to evacuate before we even packed a bag. We're the only species that pretends it can't see disaster coming. Persephone hasn't stopped moving inland. The last radar images I saw before the satellites died showed her stretching across half the South, the bands reaching as far as Arkansas and Mississippi. That's not a storm anymore. That's a continent under siege. And still, the official channels keep quiet. I can't shake the thought that maybe the government has already written this part of the country off. That somewhere, in a room far away, they're drawing maps and deciding what's worth saving and what isn't. Maybe Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, they're already gone in their eyes. Maybe they think letting us drown will buy them time to protect the Northeast or the West Coast. I don't know. I just know that no one's coming for us right now. If you're listening out there, you need to start thinking in terms of survival, not rescue. That means clean water. That means food that doesn't spoil. That means keeping warm even when the winds turn cold after the storm passes. Build stashes where you can. Use old bathtubs to store water. Use bleach if you can find it. 8 drops per gallon. Shake it. Let it sit 30 minutes before drinking. If you don't have bleach, boil what you collect for at least 10 minutes. Don't trust the rivers. Don't trust the taps. Everything down here is contaminated now. I can hear the water hammering against the door downstairs. It's not inside yet, but it's close. If the station floods, I'll move upstairs to the storage loft and rig a new broadcast from there. I'll keep talking, even if I have to hang a wire out the window to get this signal out. Because if you can hear me, if even one person hears me, then maybe the world isn't completely gone yet. It's hard to tell time in here. The clock on the wall stopped when the power went, and my phone's nothing but a black screen now. Useless wait. I only know it's past midnight because the darkness outside feels like it's been here forever. Thicker than the rain. Thicker than the water climbing step by step. I keep listening for the creak of the door giving way, for that moment when the flood finally takes the station. But so far, the bricks are holding. I don't know for how long. Celeste stirred a few minutes ago. She asked me if the storm was over yet, and I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth. She's exhausted, half delirious, and it's better she sleeps. I don't think she understands yet that Persephone isn't just passing through, that this isn't one of those old storms people used to watch blow through in a night before waking to clear skies. This storm has roots. It's digging in, lashing everything down with wind and water until nothing familiar is left. I stepped out onto the landing earlier with my flashlight. The beam barely cut the rain, just scattered into mist, but it was enough to show me the parking lot, or what used to be a parking lot. Now it's a churning pool. The tops of cars poke out like gravestones, roofs glinting under flashes of lightning. Every once in a while, one shifts, sliding slowly, almost gracefully, as the current pulls it toward the main road. It's strange to see so much motion when everything else feels stuck. The city isn't a place anymore. It's a riverbed. I thought about waiting out there to see if I could reach the old gas station 2 blocks down. There might be food still, maybe bottled water. But then I saw what the current was carrying. Splintered lumber, broken glass, coils of barbed wire torn from a fence. And worse, I think, something pale drifting by that I couldn't look at too long. I stayed put. There's a line between bravery and suicide, and right now, leaving this station feels like the latter. The strange thing is, I keep hearing noises that don't sound like the storm. Not just the groan of the building, or the crash of things breaking in the distance. I mean voices. Once I swore, I heard someone yelling for help, close by. But when I shined the flashlight, there was no one. Another time it sounded like laughter, faint, almost childlike, carried on the wind. I told myself it was the storm playing tricks, but a part of me wonders if it's the city itself, echoing with what it used to be. Maybe this much destruction leaves imprints, sounds that don't want to die even when the people are gone. There's talk. There's always talk, even when the lines are dead, that Persephone is only the beginning, that what's happening here will spread north. Some kind of chain reaction in the atmosphere. I don't know the science, but the way it was explained to me by someone who claimed to know, the jet stream is broken. The patterns that used to guide storms, keep them in line, those don't exist anymore. So what we've got now is chaos. Storms that stall, storms that fuse, storms that don't follow rules. He said Category 7 won't be the top either. He said we'll need new numbers soon. The silence from Washington is heavier than any storm surge. Not one word, not one order, not even a taped address. It makes me think either they've lost control completely, or they've gone underground, sealed away in bunkers while the rest of us drown. I remember after the old hurricanes, Katrina, Harvey, Ida, how leaders used to show up on TV, promising aid, promising help. Even if the promises were thin, at least there were words. Now there's nothing, just the static of a world that shut its mouth. I don't think people understand yet how fast things collapse without the basics. No power means no refrigeration. No refrigeration means food spoils in days. No fuel means no trucks. No trucks means empty shelves. And once the shelves are empty, people turn. It doesn't take weeks or months. It takes hours. I saw it yesterday, clear as day, when two men started fighting over a floating cooler. Just a plastic box with who knows what inside. They nearly drowned each other for it. That's where we are now. But even in that chaos, I've seen sparks of something else. Earlier, when I was up on the roof checking the antenna, I spotted a group of kids forming a chain in the floodwater, holding hands to keep from being swept away while they carried an old woman across to higher ground. No one told them to do it. No one promised them anything for it. They just did it because it was the right thing. That image has stayed with me all night. In a world tearing itself apart, that kind of stubborn kindness is a weapon. For those of you who can hear me, don't waste this time waiting for things to go back to normal. They won't. Start making plans for the long haul. Find people you trust, pool your resources, and think about how to outlast this storm, not just survive it tonight. Look for old tools, old methods. The things we used to laugh at, like hand crank radios or wood stoves. Those are lifelines now. The future isn't shiny anymore. It's rusted, patched together, but it works. The water is inside now. I can hear it downstairs, sloshing across the tile floor. The generator is still humming, safe for the moment. But if the water rises high enough to touch the tank, that's it. I'll have to climb higher, move this broadcast upstairs with whatever wires I can string together. I'll keep going, though. I promised myself I'd keep going as long as I could, because silence is worse than the storm. Silence means we've given up, and I'm not ready to give up yet. The water is higher now. I can hear it moving across the lobby like a slow tide, pushing against furniture, dragging things across the floor with a sound that reminds me of chains being pulled through mud. Every so often, something crashes, maybe a chair tipping, maybe a cabinet breaking loose, and the echo climbs up the stairwell like footsteps. It's strange, but the sounds make me feel less alone, like the building itself is breathing with me, resisting the weight of the flood inch by inch. Celeste woke again not long ago. She asked me if we were safe. I told her yes, even though I don't know what that word means anymore. Safe from what? Safe until when? All I know is that the roof hasn't peeled away yet, and the generator is still humming. That's as close to safe as anyone can claim tonight. She cried a little, quietly, holding her blanket close. I didn't stop her. Crying's honest. Better to let it out than keep it locked in until it poisons you. When I look out the window now, the water reflects lightning like a broken mirror. It's not just rainwater out there. It's sewage, oil, blood, everything that leaked when the city broke apart. I saw a school bus floating earlier, yellow paint smeared with mud, its windows smashed out. It rolled slowly, almost like it was alive, until the current caught it and pulled it under. Things we built to carry our children are sinking like stones now. That's what Persephone does. Turns symbols into wreckage. I keep thinking about the last official warning I heard. A voice on the emergency channel, calm, almost too calm, telling people to shelter in place and wait for help. That was 5 days ago. No one's come. No helicopters, no boats, no trucks. Just that empty promise hanging in the air. It makes me wonder if the people who recorded it are still alive, or if they left the message running while they evacuated themselves. Maybe there's no one left to shut it off. It's not just Baton Rouge. Before the satellites blinked out, I caught one last glimpse of the storm's span. Persephone stretched like a beast across half the map. Gulfport was gone, Mobile was drowning, and Houston's skyline was already half buried in water. Even inland cities weren't safe. Jackson, Birmingham, Little Rock, they were all under the bans. The storm is wider than states. This isn't a local disaster. This is a scar cutting through the heart of the country. And still, I wonder how many people stayed behind because they believed someone would come. I don't blame them. We've been trained our whole lives to believe help would arrive if we dialed a number or turned on the news. But the phones are dead, the news is gone, and the only voices left are the ones carried on weak signals like this one. If you can hear me, remember this. No one's coming. Not because they don't want to, but because they can't. Whatever systems we thought were unshakable have already broken. Survival isn't about waiting anymore. It's about acting. If you've got a roof above your head, reinforce it. If you've got food, portion it. If you've got people around you, work together, even if you never liked them before. Old grudges won't matter when the water reaches your knees. I've heard stories from the old storms, back before I was born, about neighbors who survived because they shared one generator between 6 families. That kind of thinking is the only way through this. Isolation feels safe in the moment, but it'll kill you in the long run. I've been thinking about my father tonight. He used to tell me stories about Katrina, how he and my grandfather drove into New Orleans days after the levees broke to help a cousin. He told me about the smell, how it hung in the air for months, sweet and rotten at the same time. He said he'd never forget the sound of people banging on the Superdome doors, begging to get in. I remember listening as a kid and thinking it was some ancient tragedy, like it belonged to another time, a story that couldn't happen again. And now here I am, staring out at a city drowning in real time, telling a story that maybe someone will listen to decades from now, if decades still exist. I found some old papers in the station's storage closet earlier. Maps, weather charts, emergency plans from the 2020s. Back then, they thought Category 5 was the limit. They wrote whole manuals on how to handle a 5. There's nothing in those pages about what to do when the storm breaks the scale. They planned for a ceiling that doesn't exist anymore. That's the problem with numbers. We think if we name something, we control it. But Persephone doesn't care about numbers. She only cares about heat and water, and we've given her plenty of both. The air smells different tonight. It's hard to explain, but it's not just rain. There's a metallic edge to it, sharp in the back of my throat. Maybe it's from transformers exploding. Maybe it's chemicals washing out of factories into the flood. Either way, it makes me wonder what we're breathing in, what we'll carry in our lungs, even if we live through this storm. Survival isn't clean anymore. Everything's poisoned, even the air. I know this isn't the kind of broadcast people are used to. I'm not here to entertain, not here to give headlines or commercials. I'm here to tell the truth as I see it, minute by minute, because that's all we have left. A storm doesn't lie, and neither should I. If you're listening, I'll keep talking, because silence is worse than anything Persephone can throw at us. The water's up to the second step of the stairwell now. I can hear it gurgling as it pushes air out of the walls, like the building itself is choking. Every time a wave slaps against the brick, the whole station shudders, and I feel it through the floor like the heartbeat of something dying slowly under my feet. I know the higher floors will hold for a while, but the thought that the ground level is already gone makes me feel like I'm sitting on top of a sinking coffin. Celeste is awake again. She's quieter now, staring at the wall more than she talks. She asked me if I thought her brother might still be alive in Lafayette. I didn't answer right away. Lafayette's not far, but in this storm, it might as well be another continent. I finally told her that if he's smart, he's found high ground and he's staying there. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't believe me. Hope's a fragile thing. You can feed it or starve it with just a few words, and I keep catching myself wondering which is kinder. Out in the distance, I can still see light, but it's not electricity. It's fire. Whole stretches of the skyline are glowing orange behind the sheets of rain. Fires so big they burn even in the middle of a storm. I don't know what started them. Maybe gas leaks. Maybe people fighting over fuel. Maybe just accidents in the dark. But it's spreading. That's the new picture of the world. Cities half underwater and half on fire, with nothing in between. Earlier tonight, before the flood broke into the lobby, I picked up a faint transmission on the emergency band. It was a man's voice, weak and breaking up, but I caught enough to understand. He said the shelters are gone. Every official shelter between New Orleans and Baton Rouge has either flooded, collapsed, or been abandoned. He said the people inside scattered, some making it onto rooftops, some just gone. His voice shook when he said it, like he was watching it all from a distance, powerless to stop it. I haven't heard that signal again since. I've been trying to piece together what's left of our systems from scraps of information. Power's out across the entire southern grid. Fuel reserves are gone. Stations drained. Pipelines ruptured. Hospitals are dark. I can't confirm, but someone told me Oxner Medical in New Orleans lost its generators last night. Hundreds of patients trapped inside. Machines going quiet one by one. The thought makes my chest ache. We built our lives on machines that can't breathe without electricity, and now the plugs are all pulled. Somewhere in all this, the military was supposed to intervene. We kept hearing about convoys, helicopters, rescue boats. I've seen none. I think maybe they tried, and the storm just swallowed them. Even the strongest machines are nothing against water moving like this, wind cutting at 200 miles an hour. Maybe the military's still out there, working in places I can't see. Or maybe they've pulled back, drawing their lines around cities they think they can hold. leaving the rest of us to the flood. There's talk of people heading north, walking the interstates that are still above water, carrying what they can on their backs. It's hard to know if that's any better. The roads will run out eventually, and the storm bands reach farther every day. But staying put feels like waiting to drown. I can't blame anyone for trying. Moving, even blindly, feels more alive than sitting still in water that keeps rising. I've been rationing my words like I ration food. Talking uses energy, and energy is what we have to protect most now. But I'll keep going because I know there are ears out there, ears hungry for something more than thunder and silence. If you can hear me, if this signal is reaching you, know this. We've always been told storms pass. That's the rhythm of life. Storms come, storms go, skies clear. But what we're living through now isn't a passing thing. Persephone isn't visiting, she's staying. And we have to start imagining a world where the storm doesn't leave. I can almost hear some of you groaning at that, thinking I'm being dramatic. But look at the facts. A hurricane this size should have torn itself apart days ago when it hit land. Instead, it's feeding on the heat of everything it touches. The soil, the rivers, the air itself. If the earth is this hot, what's to stop the next storm from being worse? Or the one after that? Maybe Persephone is just the first of many to come, the opening note of a new age of storms. If that's true, then the old ways of living are gone. No more sprawling cities along the coast. No more trusting that walls and levees can hold back oceans that are climbing year by year. No more waiting for someone else to fix it. Survival now means higher ground, smaller communities, old knowledge we buried when we thought the future was endless. Survival means pulling together or being picked apart by wind and water. I've been thinking about the name they gave this storm, Persephone. In the old myths, she was the queen of the underworld, dragged down and made to stay half the year in darkness. Maybe it's fitting. Maybe this storm is the underworld pulling us down, reminding us that we were never in charge of the earth like we thought we were. We were just guests, and bad ones at that. And now, the landlords come to collect. The generator sputtered a little while ago. My stomach dropped when I heard it. It's still running, but I know the fuel's not infinite. When it dies, so does this voice. I've got a small solar rig in the closet, something I kept for emergencies, but with skies this dark, I don't know if it'll pull enough to keep broadcasting. I'll try though. I'll always try, because silence is the enemy. If you're still out there, if you're hearing me, hold on. Find someone to hold on to. And if you're alone, let my voice remind you that you're not. We're all caught in Persephone's grip, but that means none of us are truly alone. The water has reached the bottom of the studio door now. I can hear it pressing against the wood, seeping through the cracks, dripping one slow bead at a time onto the carpet. It's strange how loud a single drop sounds when the rest of the world is already roaring. I keep staring at that dark stain spreading wider across the floor, wondering how much longer until the whole room is nothing but a shallow pool. The building's holding, but nothing holds forever. Not against this. Celeste hasn't spoken in hours. She's curled in the corner with her knees to her chest, staring at the floor like she's already somewhere else. I think shock has her. I tried giving her a cracker from what I salvaged, but she just shook her head and turned away. She whispered something about the water never stopping. I didn't argue. She's right. It doesn't feel like it's ever going to stop. Out beyond these walls, I hear things moving in the current. Not just debris, but voices. Or what sound like voices. Every once in a while, I swear I hear people calling names, pleading, laughing even. But when I lean out the window and shine my flashlight, there's nothing there, just water rushing past. Maybe it's echoes of people already gone. Maybe it's just the storm playing tricks on my ears. Either way, it leaves me cold. I can't shake the feeling that something larger is happening here than just a hurricane. Persephone isn't behaving like the storms in the old records. She isn't weakening over land. She isn't breaking apart. She's spreading. Every band that drifts inland turns into a new floodplain, another piece of the country swallowed. And the air feels hotter, not cooler, like the storm is feeding on the ground itself. I wonder if this is what they meant when they talked about runaway systems, the point where nature stops giving us seasons and starts giving us punishment. The silence from the government is worse than the wind. No one's coming on the airwaves anymore. No National Guard announcements. No FEMA instructions. No presidential address. Just dead air. It makes me think either the leadership is gone, or they've abandoned us completely. Maybe they're locked underground, pretending the world above will somehow be waiting for them when they crawl out. If they ever crawl out. I tried switching to the long-wave band earlier, picked up something faint, maybe from up north. It was a woman's voice repeating, "High ground only. Do not wait for rescue. High ground only." Over and over, like a broken prayer. It didn't say where she was broadcasting from. Maybe it doesn't matter. The message itself is the truth. If you can hear me now, do the same. Don't trust walls. Don't trust pumps or levees. Get as high as you can, even if it means climbing onto rooftops or hillsides. The water takes everything else. I thought about my father again tonight. He used to tell me storms had sounds, that if you listened close enough, you could tell the difference between one that was passing through and one that meant to stay. I didn't understand then. I do now. Persephone doesn't sound like a storm. She sounds like a city collapsing, like history ending. It's not just thunder and rain. It's the groan of steel bending, the snap of trees breaking, the muffled cries of people who can't be heard. The smell is getting worse. The flood isn't clean. It's carrying everything broken, everything rotting. Oil, sewage, chemicals from plants upriver. Every breath feels heavier, like I'm drinking poison with the air. I've got a scarf tied over my face, but it doesn't help much. I can't stop thinking about what's in that water. What happens if it touches wounds? What happens if people drink it because they don't have another choice? Disease is the next shadow behind the storm. It always has been. I've been giving advice where I can, because maybe someone listening needs it more than they need comfort. If you're stuck in this with me, store whatever clean water you have in sealed containers. If you don't have sealed containers, use glass jars, even pots, but cover them. Anything exposed to this flood will turn foul fast. Boil what you collect from the rain, or use bleach if you can find it. 8 drops per gallon. Shake it. Let it sit. It's not perfect, but it's life. Food won't last long either. Focus on what keeps without power. Cans, dried grains, anything sealed. Anything else is already spoiling. Celeste just asked me if the sun is ever coming back. I told her it will, though I'm not sure. The sky hasn't had a star in it for days, just blackness and lightning. Still, I had to tell her yes, because if she loses that hope, she might not hold on at all. Maybe lying was the kindest thing I've done tonight. The generator coughed again. Each time it stutters, I feel like my heart stutters with it. I know the fuel is running low. I've got one solar rig upstairs, but it's weak. If the sky's ever clear, maybe it'll be enough to keep this voice alive. But right now, the sky is a blanket of rage, and no sunlight can break through it. If you're still hearing me, wherever you are, hold on to that thought. Not the storm, not the fire, not the silence, but the fact that this voice, right now, still reaches you. That means there are still threads connecting us across this drowned land. We are not gone. Not yet. The carpet in the studio is soaked through now. Every step I take squishes water up around my shoes, and the smell of it, stagnant, sour, like everything rotting all at once, makes me gag if I breathe too deep. The water hasn't climbed to the generator yet, but it's only a matter of time. I've already dragged the backup solar rig upstairs, even though it's a joke against skies this black. I'll use it anyway, because I can't let this voice go quiet. Quiet is the worst part. I keep leaning out the window, shining my flashlight over the water. It reflects back nothing but movement, endless brown currents tearing past like rivers through streets that used to carry traffic. Street signs poke out at odd angles, green metal half drowned, the words barely legible under mud. It's strange how fast a city loses its identity once the water takes it. Landmarks vanish, corners blur. You can walk 2 blocks and not know where you are anymore. I thought I saw a man wading across the current earlier. He was waist deep, moving against the flow with something slung across his back. Maybe a child. He never looked up, never called out, just pressed forward step after step. I tried yelling, but the storm swallowed my voice, and then lightning flashed, and he was gone. I don't know if he made it, or if the river took him. That's how fragile survival is now, balanced on whether you can take one more step before the current wins. Celeste has gone silent again. She stares at the window but doesn't really see. She asked me once more about her brother, whether I think he's alive in Lafayette. I gave her the same answer as before, softer this time. I don't know if repeating hope helps or hurts, but I keep doing it anyway. The strange thing is, the storm doesn't feel like weather anymore. It feels like an occupation, like something has moved in and claimed this land for itself. I remember reading about the old Dust Bowl in school, how storms back then buried towns in sand, how people boarded up houses and still found the dirt piling on their pillows. That's what this feels like. Not a disaster that passes, but a new rule being written. I picked up another faint signal on long wave. This one was different. A man's voice, strong but clipped, repeating a military code. He said, "Zone Delta compromised. Containment impossible. Retreat north." Over and over. If that was real, it means the military was here, at least for a while. It also means they're leaving. If they can't contain it, they'll abandon it. That's how empires fall. First by silence, then by retreat. The fires outside are spreading. Even in the middle of the rain, they burn. Some must be chemical. The orange glow stretches for miles now, like the horizon itself is molten. It makes the floodwater look alive, shining red where the flames reflect. Sometimes I wonder if Persephone isn't just a storm, but a cleansing fire and water sweeping away what we built, leaving nothing behind but ash and mud. I found a notebook in the desk here, half ruined by damp, but some pages are dry. I've started writing things down in case the generator dies and this broadcast cuts off for good. Maybe someone will find it one day and know what happened here. Know that Baton Rouge wasn't erased quietly. That there were voices, even if they were only carried on weak radio waves. We matter, even now. The smell is worsening. It's not just water anymore. It's the city decomposing. I caught a whiff earlier that reminded me of meat left in the sun. I don't want to think about what it means, but I know. The flood carries everything. living and dead, and there's no separating them now. If disease doesn't come soon, I'll be shocked. If you're anywhere the water hasn't reached yet, don't let it touch you. Boil your rain, not your river. The storm howls louder tonight. It's hard to explain, but it feels angrier, like the winds themselves are screaming. I've heard hurricanes before on old recordings, but nothing like this. This is a voice bigger than us, and it doesn't care about our numbers, our borders, our plans. It only cares about tearing down. I told Celeste something earlier, maybe to comfort myself as much as her. I said that the sun will rise again, that even if the storm holds, even if the skies stay black, somewhere above it all, the sun still burns. We can't see it, but it's there. And maybe that's the only truth worth clinging to. That above the flood, above the silence, something constant still exists. I'll keep talking as long as I can. If you hear me, know that you're still connected to another living voice. Know that you're not drifting alone in this sea. Persephone may own the land tonight, but she doesn't own us. Not yet. The water is nearly knee-high in here now. Every cable I've got stretched across the floor is half submerged, and I'm praying the insulation holds. I don't want this broadcast to end with a spark and silence. I dragged a few of the wires up onto a chair, rigged them higher where I could. But I know it's a losing battle. The flood rises slow but steady, and slow is just as deadly as sudden. Celeste won't leave the corner anymore. She mutters sometimes, words I can't make out over the storm, and then she goes quiet again. I think her mind is breaking under the weight of it all. I don't blame her. A week ago, she was probably just another woman living her life, working, paying bills, dreaming about small things like vacations or dinners. Now she's here, staring into the dark, listening to a stranger talk into the air about a storm that won't end. I wonder how many of us are left in that same state, broken but breathing. I tried eating a candy bar earlier, but it barely touched the knot in my stomach. Hunger feels different in times like these. It's not just emptiness. It's sharp, bitter, like the body knows every calorie matters more than ever. I've been careful, rationing each bite, but I know the supplies won't last. If the generator keeps running, I'll need to risk the flood soon, scavenging in buildings nearby. But I can't think about that yet. One step at a time. Survive the night, then think about tomorrow. The fires keep spreading. I can see them out the window, the glow brighter now even through the rain. It's strange to see rain and flame dancing together, one feeding the other. The air tastes metallic from it. Maybe whole refineries are burning, maybe chemical plants along the river. Whatever it is, it doesn't belong in our lungs. If you're anywhere near the glow, cover your mouth. Wet cloth, scarf, anything. It's not perfect, but it's something. I keep coming back to that faint signal I heard earlier, the voice repeating, high ground only. I've been thinking about what high ground even means anymore. Cities like ours weren't built for height. We built wide, not tall, sprawling across floodplains and riverbanks, pretending the water would never reach. But the water always wins. Maybe the only high ground left is inland hills, mountain ridges, places far from where we built our glass towers. Maybe this storm is pushing us back toward those forgotten places, the ones that seemed irrelevant when the world was stable. The silence from Washington grows heavier by the hour. I keep hoping to hear even a false promise, even a recorded message, but nothing comes. It's as if the whole government has vanished, dissolved into the storm like paper and water. I wonder if they're still out there, sitting safe underground, or if they're just as lost as we are, and too afraid to admit it. Either way, the effect is the same. No one's coming. No one's leading. We're left to our own hands. I think about the old stories my father told me. About Katrina, about the Superdome, about the bodies left for days because no one came. That was a tragedy then. Now it feels like rehearsal for this. Like all those warnings were ignored, and we doubled down on fragile walls and cheap promises until the storm finally grew big enough to sweep it all away. Persephone isn't just a hurricane. She's the bill coming due. The noises outside keep me on edge. Sometimes it's just debris scraping against brick, but other times it's louder, heavier. Once I swore I heard footsteps in the water, sloshing slow, deliberate. I shined the flashlight, but there was nothing there, just rain and current. Maybe my mind is breaking too. Maybe that's what this storm does. Not just tear down buildings, but tear down reason. Still, I'll keep talking. As long as this generator runs, as long as my voice holds, I'll send this signal out. Because even if it reaches only one pair of ears, that's enough. That means one more person knows they're not alone. So if you're listening now, hold on. Keep climbing higher if you can. Keep your water clean, your food dry, and your hope alive. The storm hasn't beaten us yet. Not while there's still a voice left to say so. The generator gave a cough again just a few minutes ago. The kind of sound that makes you stop breathing for a moment, like listening to the heartbeat of someone who's barely holding on. I tapped the side of the casing, as if that would change anything, and for now it's still running. But the pitch has dropped, like the engine is tired. I know the fuel's low. I don't know if I have hours left or just minutes before this room goes silent. I've been moving supplies higher, stacking anything worth saving on tables and shelves. The water downstairs is waist deep now, and I can hear the furniture floating, bumping against the walls with hollow thuds. Every noise sounds like someone knocking at the door, but I know no one's coming. The storm hasn't eased. If anything, it's angrier. The wind shrieks like it's tearing the air itself apart. Every gust feels like a giant dragging claws across the roof. I can feel the vibration in my chest, and sometimes I wonder if the whole building will peel away from the foundation. I look out at the skyline, what's left of it, and every flash of lightning shows me something new missing. A tower gone, a bridge snapped in half, whole streets erased. The city is dissolving before my eyes. Celeste is asleep again, if you can call it sleep. She twitches, whispers, grips the blanket like she's falling. I don't know if she'll last through this, not because of the water or the hunger, but because of the weight pressing down on her mind. I've seen that look before, in old photos of disasters. The look of someone whose spirit has already left even though the body's still here. I try to talk to her when she's awake, try to keep her tethered to this moment, but words feel small against a storm this big. I've been thinking about how quickly everything collapsed. Phones, power, water, roads, all gone in less than a week. The things we thought were permanent were never stronger than glass. And once the glass cracked, everything fell through. I keep circling back to the truth that's hardest to swallow. No one is in control anymore. Not governments, not armies, not scientists. Persephone stripped that illusion away. The storm is in control, and we're just trying to keep breathing inside it. Earlier I thought I heard another signal, faint, broken, scattered across the static. It sounded like someone reading numbers, coordinates maybe. I wrote them down, but I don't know if they're real or if the storm warped the sound into patterns that don't exist. Still, I keep staring at them, wondering if they point to higher ground, or maybe just another empty shelter. It doesn't matter now, because I can't reach them. But maybe you can, if you're somewhere dry enough to travel. If you hear numbers, write them down. Numbers might be the last road signs we have left. The air in here is suffocating, damp, thick, full of the smell of chemicals and mold. My throat burns every time I speak, but I'll keep speaking. The silence outside is worse. No sirens, no helicopters, no traffic. Just the howl of the storm and the occasional crash of something else giving way. Cities aren't supposed to be quiet. Even at night, even in storms, they're supposed to hum with life. But this one is already a grave. I don't know how long I'll keep this up. Maybe until the fuel runs out. Maybe until the water climbs higher. Maybe until the storm finally rips this roof away. But until then, I'll talk, because talking means there's still a world worth talking to. And if you're hearing this, you're part of it. You're proof that we're not completely gone yet. So here's my message tonight, simple as I can put it. Don't give in. Don't lay down in the water and let it take you. Fight, even if it's just to climb one more step, to light one more candle, to speak one more word. Because the storm only wins when we stop trying. The water hasn't stopped rising. It's at my shins now, and every movement through this room feels heavier, slower, like the storm wants to drag me down even here inside the studio. The sound of it sloshing fills every pause between my words. Sometimes I catch myself timing my breaths with the rhythm, just to keep calm, like I'm swimming even when I'm standing. I know I'll have to climb higher soon, maybe move everything up into the loft, but that means shutting down for a while to drag cables and gear, and I can't stand the thought of silence, even for a few minutes, so I wait. Celeste hasn't said a word since the last time she woke. She just stares, sometimes at the window, sometimes at her own hands, as if she's watching them to make sure they're still real. I try to speak to her softly, but she doesn't respond. I don't know if she hears me anymore. The storm doesn't just break buildings, it breaks people too, and I think she's slipping into a place I can't follow. Still, she's here, breathing, and that matters. The city outside is gone. I can say that now without hesitation. What's left of Baton Rouge is just water and fire. The skyline doesn't even look like itself. Whole blocks erased, outlines of buildings sagging into the flood. Every flash of lightning shows me something new that wasn't broken before. The streets I walked a week ago don't exist. They've been replaced by rivers with no names. That's how fast it happens. A city that took centuries to build can vanish in days. I keep tuning through the frequencies, desperate for something, anything. Most of it is just static, white noise that hisses like the storm itself. But once in a while, I catch fragments. A woman's voice crying for someone named Daniel. A man repeating, "Please, if anyone hears this, I'm at the corner of..." And then it cuts off. Broken voices in a broken world, scattered like glass. I can't reach them, and they can't reach me, but for those few seconds we exist together. And that's something. The smell in here is unbearable now. The water is carrying everything. Rot, fuel, chemicals, things I don't want to name. Every breath is a reminder that survival isn't clean. We're breathing poison, drinking it, soaking in it. Maybe even if we outlast the storm, the sickness will come next. That's always how it happens. First the flood, then the fever. If you're listening, guard against it. Boil your water, cover your skin, and don't wade through the flood unless you have no choice. Every cut, every scrape is a doorway for infection. I think about how we got here. Decades of warnings ignored. Decades of saying the seas were rising, the storms were getting stronger, and still we built higher and wider on land that was always meant to drown. We thought walls would save us. We thought pumps would hold forever. We thought we were smarter than the earth itself. And now Persephone has come to show us we were wrong. Maybe that's the cruelest truth of all, that this isn't unnatural. This is exactly what we were promised, and we just refuse to believe it. The fires keep burning. Even through the sheets of rain, the horizon glows orange. I don't know how they survive the storm, but they do. Fed by chemicals, by gas lines, by anything flammable left behind. The sight of it makes the night look like the end of the world. Water below, fire above, and in between. Nothing but the howl of a storm with no mercy. If you can hear me now, wherever you are, know this. You're not alone. Even if you're sitting in the dark, even if you're the last voice in your building, even if the storm has taken everyone else you loved, you're not alone. My voice is proof. Your ears are proof. We're still here, still alive, still human. That's the thread we hold on to, even when everything else is swept away. The generator groaned again just now. I don't know how much time it has left. Maybe hours, maybe less. When it dies, I'll switch to solar, weak as it is. But that means shorter broadcasts, smaller windows. So if this signal cuts, don't think it's the end. It just means I'm fighting to come back. Until then, I'll keep talking. Because words matter, even now. Especially now.